Hello, Wheeling Jesuit class of 2016. You now take part in a ritual that's happening from coast to coast, where someone whom you never met comes in from out of town and imparts some words of wisdom before you earn your well-earned degrees. While I am new to almost all of you, I want you to know that I'm not new to the endeavor of Jesuit education, and I am proud to be an honorary member of your class and to spend these brief moments with you. Jesuit education is well known throughout the world, especially since our most famous Jesuit, Pope Francis, has become somewhat of a global phenomenon. But how exactly do you describe Jesuit education? Is it a commodity that you have, as in, I have an iPad Pro, a Subaru Legacy, a Jesuit education, and a job offer at Google? Is a Jesuit education an existential description of your being, as in, I am an extroverted, open-minded, Jesuit-educated Sagittarius? Or is it another value-added attribute that we sort of use to punch up our resume and put ourselves ahead of the competition? It's very easy to reduce a university or a type of education to a brand, but brands don't always work. My favorite go-to comedian is Mr. Stephen Colbert. And Colbert has a funny routine on his faith. He says, Catholics have many advantages over other religions. One is marble. For every buck I put in the collection plate, I want some production value. He goes on to say, Catholics have 10,000 saints. They're like God's customer service representatives. Say you lose your wallet. You could bother the Creator, or you could pray to St. Anthony. Finding lost things is all he does for eternity. And then there's St. Agnes. She's the patron saint of nurses and bell makers. If you're a nurse and a bell maker, that's one-stop shopping. I think we can appreciate how satire shows the absurdity of branding our faith. But imagine the kind of parody Colbert could do on Jesuit education. One reason why Jesuit universities are great is that they're a sure bet during March Madness, and if you win, you gain both pride and cash. Or, Jesuits have taught thinkers as famous as René Descartes and have taught presidents as infamous as Fidel Castro. If you want to sound smart, say you have the same degree as Descartes, and if you're looking for someone to blame, say, hey, I was taught by the same guys who taught Castro. Your degree is not a model, make, or brand. It's not something to be auctioned on eBay or praised for its resale value. The value of a Jesuit education goes much deeper than branding. Jesuit education has many descriptors which help to understand its richness and depth. They're the letters AMDG, Ad Maiorem Dei Gloriam, for the greater glory of God, which is the motto of the Jesuit order. You've no doubt heard of forming women and men for others. And some of you are familiar with the Latin term magis, meaning more or greater. These are excellent points of departure for reflection on Jesuit education. And as helpful as descriptors can be, they can also be easily diluted. 10 years ago, a well-known NBC News personality was delivering Harvard University's commencement address. Because he had given dozens of quotable commencement addresses, those who were to be graduated from Harvard College took top quotes from the speaker's previous addresses and plotted them into a game of bingo. And every time he said or repeated an address, they'd mark their cards until throughout the ceremony they were standing out screaming bingo. Such nerve from our nation's oldest university. So why do we repeat expressions such as AMDG, women and men for others, and magis? And how will this repetition affect what you do and how you live in the world? I like looking first to the one who inspired this whole enterprise, St. Ignatius Loyola. Ignatius Loyola was wasn't what we would call a traditional student. He was a pretty happy-go-lucky guy who only came to education after conversion following a battle wound. When he decided to go back to school, he kind of had to get the equivalent of his GED and sit along students half his age. But what he eventually learned at the University of Paris and what he did with his education has had a lasting impact on the world. By placing his desires ahead of his pride and placing God and others before himself, he transformed the manner and the way in which people learned. Education did not make him better than anyone else. Rather, it bettered his ability to help everyone else. Education did not double his paycheck, it more than doubled his ability to change the world. Education was not his tool for winning arguments, it helped him to win and inspire followers. Education was not something so much that he had as it was something that he gave. It was a lens into the past that gave hope for the future, and it was a way for him to see the hand of God at work in the world. I believe that this perspective is as relevant for you today as it was for him some 470 years ago. Last month I was attending a meeting of Jesuit provincial superiors in Antananarivo, Madagascar. I was invited to participate in a graduation similar to yours. Parts of it were different, the Malagasy language, the climate, the music. Much of it was the same, the caps and gowns, the noise from the stands, and the enthusiasm of the parents and families. At one point, my counterpart, the president of the Jesuit Conference of Africa and Madagascar, spoke to the graduates, and he highlighted three basic needs: food, shelter, and companionship. Only someone was translating his English into the Malagasy language, and when they translated companionship, they translated it as physical intimacy. Well, the graduates no doubt burst out laughing, but the speaker didn't miss a beat. He said, yes, your education even has something to say about that, because St. Ignatius Loyola wanted to educate the whole person, mind, body, and spirit, recognizing that you bring your whole self into the world and not just your brain or the work of your hands. This education is all in vain if it doesn't help you find your purpose and your vocation in life. Now, we've all met somebody who's not found the right fit or the right job. I was once teaching with someone, and I knew he didn't have a future in teaching when I heard him in the classroom next to me scream, "This class is out of control, now put me down." He's no longer teaching. I had a former student who said she knew she lost the chance of a job at a Mac store when she pulled out her Samsung Galaxy phone in the middle of the interview. And I know a congressional intern in Washington who mistakenly told his congressman that he never voted in elections because there was no one worth voting for, someone who didn't exactly read the signs of the times. Yes, the stories of failed jobs and mismatched careers are legion. But finding your vocation is not merely about finding a good fit in the workplace or nailing your first job interview. For St. Ignatius Loyola, our work was as much about the difference that we made in the world as it was about our livelihood and our personal satisfaction. For him, true satisfaction came in finding the unique gifts that God gave you and using them for the betterment of the world. In your years at Wheeling Jesuit, you've achieved some noteworthy accomplishments. Your much celebrated NCAA championship, accomplishing 27,000 hours of community service, taking part in mission trips to Haiti, El Salvador, Peru. You traveled to Stratford-on-Avon to commemorate the 400th anniversary of William Shakespeare's death. And some of you even joined me in welcoming Pope Francis to Washington this past September. You've seen your campus expand its athletic, residential, and academic facilities. This year you met Sister Helen Prejean. You remembered the tragedy of the Holocaust, and you encountered a survivor of the 1994 Rwandan Tutsi genocide. Such experiences would be close to the heart of St. Ignatius Loyola because he wanted us to go to the furthest places of the world and bring consolation to others. Yes, you have in your own way admired the admiration of the founder of the Jesuit order. And so let me leave you with 3 brief words about those 3 descriptors of Jesuit education. As graduates of Wheeling Jesuit, you should be women and men of the magis. Magis is Latin for more, but not as in having more or earning more. The magis or more which characterizes Jesuit education is about how you make choices. You'll be faced with many choices in the years ahead. Choices about your own family, choices about your work, and the many everyday decisions that you will make. For St. Ignatius, choosing the magis was about choosing that which would accomplish the greater good and that which would be more pleasing to God. Let the magis shape your future. As graduates of Wheeling Jesuit, you should be women and men for others. This famous expression of Father Pedro Arrupe, the former head of the Jesuits and the 37th successor of St. Ignatius Loyola, has summed up the primary goal of Jesuit education. In a world that places so much emphasis on love of self, Father Arrupe wanted to remind us that it is only in giving that we receive. 2 years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting and conversing briefly with Pope Francis. To say that I was nervous talking to him in the Italian language would be an understatement. I worried that I might mispronounce a vowel and do the Italian equivalent of thinking I said "we love you" when in fact I was saying "we loathe you." But his warmth and his smile won my heart. At the time, my father was to have cancer surgery, and so instead of talking about myself, I told him about my dad. I still tear up when I remember his response. His first question was, "What's his name? When is the surgery?" And then he said, "I will pray for him." Didn't I feel special when I called home and said, "Hey, Dad, guess who's praying for you?" But my pride was tempered by this exceptional generosity from a man who has the care of over 1 billion, yet never loses sight of the needs of one. Be women and men for others. In giving, you will receive more than you can ever ask for. Finally, as graduates of Wheeling Jesuit, you should live AMDG, ad maiorem Dei gloriam, for the greater honor and glory of God. And if you're looking for role models who have lived their lives for the greater glory of God, you need look no further than to your own parents and grandparents, those who have brought you into this world and to this special day. In loving you, they reveal the power of selfless love and what it means to give glory to God. Dare to reach beyond yourselves. Build on their strength and courage as you move into the world. There is no greater love than to give of yourself to others, and in your moments of despair, there you will find your meaning and hope. So what is Jesuit education? Jesuit education is you. You are our proudest and newest witnesses to this nearly 500-year-old tradition. On behalf of your families, the faculty, staff, and administration of Wheeling Jesuit, I congratulate you and I salute you.